Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be discussing another storyline from the X-Files. The last storyline we discussed was the Tomb storyline, where Mulder and Scully were pursuing a serial killer who is a genetic mutant with the ability to stretch himself through chimneys and ventilation systems in order to reach his victims. In today's video, we shall be discussing Season 2, Episode 13, titled Irresistible. It takes place in Minnesota, and to contextualize some of the events that happened during this episode, Agent Scully was abducted by aliens 6 episodes before this, and seems to be displaying signs of PTSD. The episode opens with a eulogy at a funeral of a young girl named Jennifer. Open casket funerals have always seemed kind of strange to me, as they're not as common of a practice over here, at least in my experience. At the end of the funeral, Gymnopédie No. 1 is heard playing as the guests leave. Now I personally would have preferred Toccata and Fugue in D minor, but to each their own, I guess. This episode's villain, Donny Pfaster, who is a funeral director, is told by his boss that the corpse will be kept in its casket for the burial tomorrow. He waits for everyone to leave and heads towards the casket. Now this totally isn't weird at all, and I'm sure he's a perfectly normal and well-adjusted man. Later, his boss catches him cutting the hair from the corpse, and he is fired. An FBI agent named Mo Box is investigating the exhumation and desecration of the body of a young woman, so has called Mulder and Scully to assist him. The hair and nails have been cut, so Box theories that this is the work of aliens due to the similarity to cattle mutilation, but Mulder disagrees and suggests that they instead search for a human perpetrator, while Scully looks on in disgust. Mulder later explains to Scully that this is probably the work of a fetishist, and offers to take her to an American football game. On these two, they're so adorable, I swear. Meanwhile, Pfaster is at a job application, revealing that he used to work in cosmetology, which is not helping his case. His potential employer seems unsettled by his odd demeanour, but he guesses her lipstick colour correctly, which eases the social tension. He reveals he has gone back to education to study comparative religions, which seems to help with his application. Box tells Mulder and Scully that 2 more bodies have been exhumed with the same patterns as before, using pinking shears and even pliers on the last victim, much to Scully's overt disturbance. Mulder warns Box that their culprit seems to be escalating, and insists on warning the public. Box then makes a direct, although nameless reference to the real-life serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer. Which honestly shocked me, and I had to rewind it as I forgot about it from my first viewing of this episode. As mentioned in my previous videos surrounding the X-Files, the writers for this show do tend to base their villains like this on real-life cases, but I don't remember them making such blatant references as this. Scully writes a profile on the suspect, and just as Mulder suspected, Pfaster picks up a woman of the night and brings her to his home. After she complains about the lack of heating, Pfaster runs the woman a bath and goes to answer the phone while she undresses. He's gotten the job he applied for, but is interrupted when the woman comes in to complain about the temperature of the water. It is very heavily implied that she is killed off screen, and the cinematography leading up to this is really well done. The low angle of the camera and the lighting really make Pfaster seem huge and monster-like in comparison to his victim. This time, he cuts her fingers off. The police, Mulder, and Scully arrive to inspect the crime scene and the body, although Scully is reluctant to take a look at the corpse. Pfaster begins his job as a delivery man, and his first customer invites him in, where he meets her daughter, and the mother reveals that she in fact has 3. Pfaster goes to the bin in the bathroom and steals a clump of hair from it, and the mother follows to tell him that their back door is always open in case she's not home. The murder victim's friend is called to identify a suspect, and she notifies Box and Mulder that the perpetrator was an ordinary-looking man who drove a white car. Mulder theories that the perpetrator probably has a deep Freudian hatred of women, and asks to see records of the local psychiatric facilities. In class, Pfaster creepily stares at one of his classmates, and after class he approaches her. Obviously unsettled by his off-putting vibe, she tries to leave quickly, but he stops her, so she fights him off. Pfaster is arrested and Scully is called to the station after having nightmares about the case. While they interview the wrong person, Pfaster stares at Scully from his cell longingly. Mulder encourages Scully to be open with him and tell him if she can't handle the case, but she insists she's fine and will go to Washington to take forensic evidence to a lab. Pfaster asks a man who is being interviewed about what he was being questioned about, and after learning Scully's name, Pfaster is released after his classmate drops the charges. Scully goes to a counselor in Washington, and she laments that she has lost faith in herself. A forensics worker notifies Scully that the body still had a thumb attached to it, with a fingerprint on it, and that another agent phoned asking for her, and said that he would be landing in Washington soon. Scully calls Mulder and Box to notify them of the discovery, but they say they didn't call her. Box and Mulder raid Pfaster's apartment after tracing the fingerprint to him, and while Scully is driving to the airport, her car is run off the road. The Bureau finds Scully's car with her jacket still inside, and Mulder is determined to locate her. As Pfaster is checking on Scully, who is bound and gagged inside a cupboard, she hallucinates him as the demon from her nightmare, and various other figures. He cuts some of her binding, and begins running a bath for her, but she begins to fight him off. Pfaster arms himself and pursues Scully. There is a struggle and they fall down the staircase, but Mulder and Box arrive just in time to apprehend Pfaster. They had traced Pfaster using paint found on Scully's car, tracing him to his mother's abandoned house, going with Mulder's Freudian theory. Scully insists she is fine, but breaks down in Mulder's arms. The episode ends with Mulder giving a voiceover mentioning Pfaster's background, and briefly discussing the nature of evilness. This is definitely one of the weirdest and most unsettling episodes in the entire X-Files canon. I mean, I gave this video that title for a reason. The thing is, it doesn't need the flashy supernatural or extraterrestrial villains. What makes it creepy is that it is so realistic to a real offender in comparison to the usual antagonists. Aside from the evident comparison to Dharma, the obsessive and escalating behavior of Pfaster mirrors that of real documented serial killers. As previously stated, the writers have admitted to doing this purposefully, which is what I think helps make these villains so engaging and well-rounded, especially in the earlier seasons. Because of this, I think it's a good idea to keep this as a recurring thing on my channel. I have linked the killer episodes of the X-Files below, so you can all tell me which episode you would like me to review next. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.